Joel,
Yes, Ray.
we're talking construction cleanup today.
Woohoo!
I had no idea what that meant until you shared it with me several years ago. And it had never occurred to me while a building is being built, renovated, and summarily partially destroyed in the process, all the crap that the cleaning crew is going to have to do between those things.
And it depends where you come in as to what you're going to be doing.
Fill me in.
If it's a new build and a building's going up, you have what they call a grunt position. They're going around and they're picking up all of the plastic from all of the stuff that all of the tradespeople are opening up, and the cardboard boxes and the pallets and the wire, and they're sweeping to try to keep the dust down. So they're constantly kind of doing that type of work all day, every day. They might be towards the end of the day having a mop areas to try to, again, get the dust to be down. But it's not really a cleaning other than it's cleaning the work site. So that's kind of new build if you're working on a job at that time. Insurance companies don't like you to be involved in that process. If you are, you're going to be paying a lot more for your insurance rates to do that kind of work. So you don't want to just do one job. You want to be able to get in with a company solidly so that you can continue to do that, so you can pay for that part of the insurance rider.
Okay.
Typically what happens is you are going to go in after a building is supposed to be completely built or refurbished or remodeled, and you're going to do an initial construction clean. So you're going in and doing all the heavy work and getting basically a building, say 80% to 90% clean, getting the heavy dirt out, all the wire nuts, anything that kind of gets thrown or missed during the course of a final quick broom clean.
So really big, heavy, coarse materials.
Correct. But yet you would be able to use the bathrooms. You'd be able to use the kitchens because you got to get that area up so it looks presentable for a walkthrough of the tenant moving in, that it looks fairly clean. Because during this phase, you also have all the other trades doing what's called their punch work. Oh, there's a hole in the wall. Oh, there's a missing outlet. There's a missing switch. There's a leaky pipe. You know, the HVAC system doesn't have enough CFMs flowing through the vents. So they're going through and doing punch work, which then has additional soils that have to be cleaned up. And then you have your final clean, which is, now this is the white glove test. You know, this is move-in ready. It looks pristine. All the floor finishes are done. Any polishing of any of the metals are done. You know, you've opened up all the millwork and you've cleaned out the insides of the millwork, cabinets, vanities, anything like that. So it's a very, very detailed clean. Those are like the three types of construction cleaning that you may be involved in, with the first one being the most insurance heavy of the three.
Okay.
Working with your construction companies. You want to try to get in with a construction company that you are going to be able to continue to work with. You don't want to like be doing 20 different construction job sites with 20 different companies if you can help it, because construction companies are going to work with companies that work with them and work well with them and aren't going to make excuses when things aren't done and done right. And one of the things I've always prided myself on with our company is if something's wrong, we don't make excuses, we go fix it. You can get hostile on a construction site. There's a lot of four-letter words that get thrown out.
People get tired, they get coarse. I get it.
And being able to do that and yet, you know, hold your own, but don't raise your voice and don't have the construction contractor have to raise their voice goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, being able to work with a company where they even pre-bid things and you come up with a basic price per square foot, and that's going to vary by region in the United States, how much you have to pay your people, if it's a union job, a non-union contract that you're working on. So your rates are going to be a little bit different, but as long as you're consistent and you work well with the other company, that could be a cash cow for you, because there's a lot of money to be made in that part of our industry, because it's really specialized type of cleaning. And it requires a lot of people typically, particularly on larger sites, that have to do it in a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm. When you have told me about the timelines that these particular projects are on, I find it fairly amazing that things get done. A question for you specifically on speccing the job, which is part of our concern in this episode. I can see how the last part of the cleanup would be most like a traditional cleaning job. All the big rough stuff's been done. A lot of what that traditional service would be it was up and running and you were doing that.
Yes.
But the other two are so different. What guidance do you have for someone who maybe hasn't done this job or really hasn't spec'd this job?
So there's two ways to look at the very first type of job. You either just do a time and materials, or you say that person's going to work 8 hours a day. How many do you want? And, these are the basic duties. Sweeping, mopping towards end of day, picking up cardboard, all of the pallets, things like that.
So that's a pretty straightforward calculation.
It can be, yes.
It can be or is?
It can be.
Can be.
Because things that could be thrown in is, now they want you to remove all the concrete.
So it sounds like what we're talking about is writing a really specific quote.
Yes. And sometimes what happens, I want, 2 8-hour people to do all the, the rough work during. Well, what's that rough work going to include? And what's it going to exclude? And what is going to be additional billing? That is a way to do it with that. With the rough cleaning, it's pretty detailed in the sense that you're working off of the blueprints and the complete specs. So if you're working on a multi-story building typically, or like a school district, some of those are 300-400 to 3,000-4,000 pages long. And you have to read through it to catch every little thing. And I've even worked on sites where it's like, okay, you have to say how many cases of product you brought on site. And then at the end, how much product you have left.
Oh, wow.
Because they will subtract that off of what they owe you. So if you have 3, ounces of cleaning chemical left in a container, they want you to credit them that 3 ounces of product. You really have to read the RFP. And that's why if you can get into 1 or 2 construction companies and be their preferred partner, a lot of that stuff because you're usually given that contract to read that several hundred to several thousand page, depending on the size of the building. And you have like days to get the proposal in.
If our client here listening in, maybe they have been involved in construction cleanup as an employee, they started their company and wondering, looks kind of involved, but it really seemed like good money before. What would you tell them?
Be careful, because a lot of these construction sites are not going to pay you, or construction companies are not going to pay you until the work's done.
All the work's done?
All the work's done, or they have a monthly report that you have to fill out, and you have to have a very detailed of what you did, how much percentage of the job is completed, and then you can bill up to that amount, particularly if it's a multi-month type of a project, as well as usually there's what's called a retention, and they hold 10% of the money for 1 year. And when you actually do get your payments, particularly the final payment, it can be 60, 90, 120, 260 days. So making sure you understand when you read those RFPs, the terms, when are you going to get paid, how often you can submit payments, requisitions on a monthly basis. And of course, if you're going to be working there 6 months, they're going to pay you fairly regular on the front end of this deal because they want you coming back. Once the project's done, that last payment is not always easy to get. And that last payment, that retention piece that they hold a year later, sometimes it's not paid out until everything from every company has fixed the problems. So although you're the cleaning company, you're worried because the painting didn't hold up for a year like it was supposed to, or the masonry work or the electrical work. And that last bit of retention is held until everything is cleared and taken care of.
Good advice would be have other work in your
pipeline.
Yeah.
Understand that, this can be lucrative, but there are a lot of loopholes in it. And typically, even when they let you bid, they want to see a cost summary, how much chemical you're going to use, all this, and it's itemized on your quote. And they'll only allow you typically a 5% profit and a 5% overhead. I don't know too many companies that can work on a 5% overhead.
It's an interesting business, Joel.
It is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.